It's fascinating to see that this dysregulation of hormonal health, I think, is one of the biggest reasons why people are struggling with their sexuality. Possibly you can talk into sort of the estrogen dominance that's happening out there, and just the dysregulation, biophysically and chemically could be one of the big reasons about people's lack of sexual health.
100%. I see this. And, it's interesting in my career over the 30 years that I've been working, I see people younger and younger with low testosterone and estrogen dominance in their bodies. And there's a number of things that I look at. So I always look at the rule of 4. And I actually learned this from the physician who was like, my patients with terminal illness who keep their sexuality intact live. And I was like, well, what are the things you're looking at? And he was always looking at 4 things. One, what's happening in the biochemistry, which is what we're talking about. Why are we getting estrogen dominance? What's happening in the water? What's happening in our food? What are the foods you're eating? Are you using things that are causing some of that in the environment, like some of the estrogenic, like air fresheners or things like that, that can, I had a story from a functional medicine doctor I was working with, and she was telling me how she had a client who was spraying the air fresheners that take smells out of the environment all over his body in the car before he was going to work. And he started lactating, so and then they took that all away and he stopped lactating. So things like that are in our environment that are affecting our biochemistry. And how is that environment affecting your biochemistry? I think it's a really good thing to look at and to understand, because we don't understand. We just get these things and we have them around our house and in our environment, and then they're affecting our hormones.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's something to consider. And then we have the emotional aspects. So how are our emotional world, how is our emotional world affecting our biochemistry? How is that affecting our bodies? And we're really looking at that, because what is the relationship between you and your partner, or lack of a partner, and how is that affecting your overall health and your libido? You're fighting with your partner every day. For some people, that increases libido. For other people, the majority of people, about 80%, if you're in stress in your relationship, it's going to lower libido. And I'll explain a little bit more about the types, because one of those types, doesn't matter what's happening in their world, sex is actually the thing that relaxes them. So if you're having a fight with your partner, you want to go to sex, but that's a smaller percentage of people. And then
that's me, the sexual.
Yeah.
That's me.
That's me too. Me too. I'm stressed. Let's have sex, and then we'll feel better. And then we have so we looked at biochemical, we have the emotional, we also have the physical. So what's happening in the physical body? Is there muscle tension? Is the what's happening in the nervous system? Is the vagus nerve strong, or do we need to have more stimulation of that vagal complex, which then will lower some of the stress on the body that will have you have more libido or want to have more sex? So we're looking at the mechanical aspects, and then especially with things like erectile dysfunction, or looking at premature ejaculation, which are the 2 most common things that people with that are male-bodied, cock-bodied, those people. I'm like, can I say cock on this? And you said it was X-rated. That are cock-bodied. That they, we're looking at, well, what's happening in the musculature of the pelvic floor, and how is that then affecting the system? Are the muscles weak, which from all the sitting that we do, we're not squatting. We're not this flat-footed squats are so good for us, but we're sitting in chairs in front of computers more and more these days. So how's that affecting things? And then the final one is the bioenergetics. We're bioenergetic before we're any of this. So how is the health of the cell bioenergetically? What's happening in the meridians? Is there scar tissue? Have you had, I've worked with athletes and they've got these surgeries sometimes that happen because they get muscle tears, and then the scar tissue infiltrates into the pelvic floor, and then that's affecting the whole energetic system, because if you have scar tissue in the midline, then that affects the vessel. Some of this from some of your work. So I'm really looking at the whole picture from those 4 and becoming more of an erotic detective when we're looking at these things. And why now in our culture are we seeing less and less of sexual function? And then I have also these other curiosities about population. And when a species has a high population, we see things in other species to control that population that happen naturally. And so that's also an interesting inquiry as well.